you guys, I am here with what is technically the VEDA 15, even though Alyssa's VEDA 16 has already posted. She mentioned, and I mentioned in a video, that some of our YouTube uploaders on our phone have been kind of wonky and haven't worked very well, which has kind of thrown our schedule off. But after this video posts tonight, there will be 16 videos, which means we're completely caught up and on track for Springmas 2013. I was filming a video just a few minutes ago about this movie I watched this weekend with my grandmother, but it didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like something that I really wanted to talk about. I couldn't figure out how I wanted to say what I want to say about that movie, so I might post that later if I can figure out what it is exactly that I want to say. I feel like I need to have like some sort of like screen going on here. The fluorescent light in my kitchen is super bright. But instead I thought I would talk about, kind of elaborate on Alyssa's video that she posted for us yesterday. I got home from work late. It was our day before our payroll, and we have a lot of extra notes that are due, and the news coverage stuff kind of just wore me out and drug me down, and I forgot to post a video, and so Alyssa was like, well, I'll just throw up a vlog really quickly, and we can both post something tomorrow. What is most helpful? And as part of that, like, I think, her message was really, April, we want it to be positive. We didn't really intend for Vlogmas to be sad and melancholy, but just things that happened during that time period kind of impacted our mood. In the same way that, like, we really want this message for April to be positive thinking and positive living and happy, fun things. I think both of us tend to sometimes get bogged down in the bad stuff that goes on and the bad stuff around us, and we have really been trying to make an effort in 2013 in general just to try to be more positive and happier and focusing on all of the good things that we have rather than the bad things that come into perspective with us. And part of that, I think, time out. This video is not sponsored by Thor or Captain America or Hulk or Iron Man or any of the other Avengers. I just think that Sweet Tea is particularly good out of an Avengers cup. So Alyssa's message was about finding the helpers and finding the positive when bad stuff happens. And I kind of agree with that. Yesterday, I tended to stay away from, I do better if I read print news than if I see those images in video. So I don't necessarily watch the news, but I read a lot of news, and I read some blog entries for people who were in Boston, and I read Twitter posts and news stories and things like that to keep up to date with what was going on. But two things that I read that really resonated deeply within me were both on Twitter, and one of them was Maureen Johnson, who's a young adult author that I've mentioned before, and she said, like, her tweet, and these are both summed up because I didn't save them, and I don't know them word for word, but basically her tweet was, just as a reminder, sometimes watching these things and watching the aftermath leads to more distress and has more negative outcomes than just distancing yourself from them. And that's a good point. Like, you don't have to be distant and you don't have to ignore what's going on, but sometimes saying, this is enough, I need to stop, is totally okay. And I think that people act like if you don't read every news story and you didn't watch every news network last night to get all of the information, and you didn't, like, YouTube stuff about, like, on-scene stuff that was happening, and you didn't read every blog post or every tweet about it. I think sometimes people make it seem as though, like, you're not honoring the victims of that situation. And I don't think that that's accurate. I think sometimes it's more important to take a step back and to just be reflective as opposed to just eating up everything that the media throws at you. Some people function better by knowing everything and having all that information, and some people will just really need a break from that. The other thing that I read that I really appreciated was by Michael Buckley, who does the What the Buck show on YouTube, which is really good, and I love to watch his show and I love to read his tweets because they're a great mixture of like intelligent, inspiring things and like just hilarious things that he says. And it's inspirational to me because he shows that you can be really serious but also be funny and laughy and jokey and not be disrespectful. And he said yesterday, late last night actually, because I read it this morning when I was going through my news feed, and he said, I'm excited to wake up tomorrow when we'll get to hear the stories of the heroes. And that kind of resonates with what Alyssa said yesterday. It seems like whenever tragedy happens, like what you hear first is, this is the bad thing. This is the terrible thing. And these are the first responders. These are the police. These are the EMTs. These are the medics. These are the, the firefighters that responded. And that's fantastic. And I love to hear those things. But it seems like in the days and weeks after tragedy strikes, you get to hear about like the everyday people who didn't have to do anything, but that stepped up to the plate and really respond so fantastically. And it's so sad, like just after 9/11, you heard after that about the people who owned stores who were passing out like bottled water, or people that were letting people who lived across, like outside of Manhattan, they were just like opening their doors and letting people who had been evacuated just sleep on their couches or sleep on their floors, and they were giving away their shoes and their coats. And similar things happened yesterday where people were giving the marathon runners like jackets and warm clothes because they were not prepared for that until they got to the finish line. Like they didn't have anything to help keep them warm, and I always think it's more inspiring to hear about the people who could have walked away and done nothing, but instead choose to take that time and devote themselves to the people who were impacted. And I just find that can be, like, that's what I try to take out of these things. That a terrible, terrible thing happened, but humanity survived, and humanity overcame that because instead of turning their back on people, there are going to be stories of individuals and groups of people who rallied around those people who were impacted. And not just the marathon runners. There were people all over the country who knew people that were there who had no way of getting in contact with them because cell phone towers were shut down. There were people who were on lockdown in other areas that had no idea what was going on or how safe they were. And what I'm looking forward to in the next few days is really being able to focus instead of on the people who did this and the bad thing that happened, but all of the good that's going to come from it. And so, one thing I try to do when bad things happen, I have different coping mechanisms, but I just try to, just kind of be in peace. And today, actually, I kept my cousin E, who is 11 years old, and my cousin B, the clone, came over, and B is going to prom this weekend, and she wanted to pick out nail polish, and so the three of us sat in my room on my bed and went through crazy nail polish colors and sang songs together and watched random YouTube videos. And that is the kind of thing when bad things happen that I kind of cling to, being around my family and being with people who matter to me, who are most important to me, and really using that time to appreciate them and to just enjoy being around them. So I hope that today and tomorrow and the day after that and the weeks to come, that you guys are really inspired by the stories of hope and goodwill that come out of this. And I will be back again tomorrow with day 17. I think the cousins and I are going to taste test cookies after family dinner night. So that will be exciting. And if these cookies are successful, I think I'm going to do a how-to video about how to make them. So, sorry this video ran long. We're trying to keep them shorter, but I had a lot of words to say tonight. So, have a happy Tuesday, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.